Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jason and I'm your watch guy today. Now you all know by now I have a little bit of a soft spot for Casio watches, and what budget collector doesn't? I mean, they're perfect. So many of them come below £30, they all come with ridiculous features for that price range, and there's so many of them that you'll forever be collecting them. But today I've got something a little bit different. When I say different, I mean pretty much completely the opposite to any other Casio that I've reviewed on the channel. It doesn't have a resin strap. In fact, it's completely stainless steel. It doesn't have a stopwatch. It doesn't have an alarm, and there's no LED display. But it's definitely a Casio. I'm of course talking about my Casio Illuminator MTD-1079. You've seen it on the channel before. I did a battery replacement on it and then a bracelet restoration. But today we're doing the full review. So guys, I'm going to turn this camera around and we're going to get into the review. So this is the Casio Illuminator MTD-1079. I saw this on a couple of other channels lately and I thought, well, I may as well review mine too. Now, as you'll know if you've watched the other videos on this watch, I got this in a bit of a bad state. I had to replace the battery on it, which is all perfectly working now. And I decided to do a little cleanup of the bracelet, which was mostly to show you guys how to do it. And it's actually come out quite nicely, to be honest. Not to praise myself too much, but I don't think I did a bad job. You'll also have to excuse that there's a little bit of a mess on my desk today. I've been restoring a couple of other watches in the last week, so things have got a little bit dirty. But into the watch. Just going to zoom in here for you. So the dimensions of this watch come in at 44mm in diameter. It is 13.8mm thick. Lug to lug is 50mm and the lugs are 22mm apart. Now we do not have a screw down crown, it's just pull push. We do however have a screw down case back, and that accounts for 100-meter water resistance on this watch, as you can see labelled on the dial there. The whole casing is stainless steel. We have a brushed effect on the upper side of the lugs, which follows into the rest of the bracelet. And we have polished side pieces on this watch. We have a very small unsigned crown with rather large crown guards, which I quite like the crown guards. I like imposing crown guards on watches. I also like watches that have big crowns with no guards. It depends on the rest of the casing to me, but I think the guards on this are a win, but the crown is very, very small, which is something I've not liked on a couple of Casios now. Now this is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. As you can see, this is a black insert. It has 5-minute intervals around the bezel with a stainless steel type of finish on those numerals. We have a 15-minute dive style indicator, but I don't think you'll be diving very far with this watch. Above the crown here we have a little push button which activates the illuminator light, which is in the top there and the bottom here. I think that's a nice little feature on this watch. It's something a little bit different that Casio have done. Finishing off this casing we have a mineral crystal which is prone to scratching. As you can see, I still have a pretty few scratches in there. It does seem to me that it is slightly domed also to flow in with the bezel. Now we have a black finished dial with nice white accents throughout. I really do like the cross printed in the center of the dial. I think that's a nice design on this watch. We have printed white indices around the watch. They have a nice grey border which gives nice accents to the watch itself. And of course a double indice at 12 here, with rectangular indices at the 9 and 6 and a day date window at 3. We have a minute track around the edge of the dial. Now you can see if I move you in closer that the minute track on the outer edge also has little markers in between for milliseconds. Now that is obviously just for effect because this second hand will not meet them. It's a quartz second hand and it just ticks to the second rather than the milliseconds like an automatic. The dial is finished with the Casio Illuminator logo at the top, water resist 100 meters at the 6, We also have a nice little indicator of its roots here at the bottom, Japan movement, either side of the 6 indice. Now this is a stainless steel bracelet. It has brushed outer edges with a polished center. We finish with a brushed signed clasp. This is a pressed clasp, so not the best quality. Now obviously this is a nice watch, but I do have to tell you about the drawbacks that it does have. A lot of my moans have to do with the bracelet itself. I do like the bracelet, it's not the worst in the world. However, rolled links is not for me. I think they're really fiddly when you're trying to adjust them, and they can catch your hairs on your wrist. It's quite lucky that I have hardly any hairs on my wrist. We have hollow end links, which at this type of budget is to be expected, to be fair, but it is something I am going to point out. One real big annoyance for me, with having such small wrists, I like to have a lot of micro adjustments because it helps me to get a better fit to the watches. However, Casio have only fitted this watch with 2 micro adjustments, which doesn't really do much. The only other actual moan I have about this watch is, unfortunately, the bezel. It doesn't feel great. There's a little bit of bounce back, and it feels a little bit tinny to me, which is a little bit of a letdown, unfortunately. Now, as is customary, I am going to finish this one off with a wrist shot. So as you can see, this is probably one of the bigger lug to lugs that I could wear on my wrist. It isn't a bad looking watch on wrist though. Overall, the design I quite like. I do think it is quite a nice watch, and at this budget, I don't think they're doing much wrong, especially with the illuminator that this watch has built in. I think that's a nice feature, and I think Casio have done something quite nice here. So guys, that is the Casio MTD-1079. It's a really nice watch for the price that you'll pay for it. What is that price, you ask? Argos are currently charging $59.99 for these watches. I think they're still regularly available. Couldn't find any on Amazon, and Casio charging $99.99 on their website. So if it were me, I know where I picked this up from. Now the question is, would I pay $59.99 for this watch? And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to say no, which isn't usual for me with Casios. I usually think they're a bargain. But I just think even in the Casio range or the Edifice range, the G-Shock range, if you look a little bit around for deals, you get much more for your money than this watch. But if you've fallen in love with it, you can find them at Argos. So guys, if you've watched to this point in the video, please do subscribe. We're fastly approaching 300 subscribers, which is great, so thank you for that. And I will see you in the next one.